Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Okay, this is the start of a brand new series. I'm going to be making Hendricks the Scrappy Hare. Now, what I want to do in this episode is just talk about the starting process and everything I need to consider in the journey that I'm about to start. I've read my instructions through. I think I understand what I need to do, but I'm just going to talk you through some basic things that I believe need to be considered in the process, and I guess show you some examples of some fabric combinations that could be used. I also have made my selection, and I'm also going to be doing it in conjunction with another YouTube channel creative lady, Susanna from Vintage Blend Studio. And when I get to the fabric, I'll show you the panel that we both have, and that is our sort of our challenge, I guess, our starting point. And then we'll both head in directions that suit our style and our creativity from just using that one common element, as well as the pattern, of course. So I've been in contact with Lesley. She is the lovely lady in the UK that created Hendricks. And on her Etsy store is where you can go to purchase it. Now, I'll just have the link down below in the description anyway, but that is what you will see when you go to Etsy. Hendricks ScrappyCo is the name of the Etsy store. In Australian dollars, the pattern is $15.71, so it'll be according to where you're from when you go for a little look. She has got some gorgeous photos of what a Hendricks is, and he is a lad. He is just gorgeous. Look at that. Oh, so you could have numerous Hendricks in your house. So this is the boy. She has a Instagram page and a Facebook page as well, where you can go to have a little look at different Hendricks made by different folks right around the place. Look at him. Oh, gorgeous. So that's the pattern. You will get a PDF file. There'll be 3 files in your on your receipt when you go to click on the download file. One is the instructions, and one is the pattern for A4 pages of paper and letter pages of paper. So in Australia we run with A4. Letter I think is US, I believe, or UK. I'm not real sure about that, but anyway, you'll know which one you'll need. Now, the other thing you need to take into consideration is the size of your Hendricks. Now, when I printed it, I did print to printable area, and he came out a certain size. Then I went back in and did a second print, hence the 2 of them here, and did print to page. And I believe it was the print to page that was actually bigger. So that means my hair will be a lot bigger. And I think somewhere here in the instructions, it says that if you want your rabbit to be 18 inches from the top of the head to the ground, you need to follow the 50 mil gauge. Now, what we mean by that is if you pop your ruler on the first page that you print, and maybe just print page 1 to start with. So this is when I realized I wanted the bigger hair. So when I put my ruler there, that tip of that arrow doesn't quite make the 5 centimeter line. So then I went back and I made it the bigger version, and now my arrow rests right on the 5 centimeter line. So that's the difference. So if you do the 5 centimeters or 50 mil, 100% in size, that means printing to your whole page available, you'll have an 18-inch hair. If it goes down, for example, by 84%, which is 42.5 mil, let's just have a look if that's 42. No, it's not. It's 45.25. So the next measurement I'm giving you is even less. So this would be smaller again. If you reduced it by 85%, it'd be 42.5 mil on the gauge, which would achieve a hair that is 15 inches tall. So it's quite a bit of difference. If this was to be a little bit smaller, your rabbit would be smaller. So that's the only thing to double check. Now I definitely want the biggest bunny I can get. So that means I'm going to put this pattern away. We're not going to use that. We're going to use this one. So just a general overview of what I need to do is pretty much cut out all of these elements. Now a few of them need to be joined. See this line here, because we're printing onto a piece of paper, that needs to find its mate, which is A to A. See that there? So what I would need to do, where's my scissors? I'm going to show you now. Hold that. Okay, I'm back. Well, I can't wait to get this started. And when you see some of the fabrics I've chosen, I think I need to do like 7 different Hendricks. But no, I'm going to stay focused and stick to the plan, because Susanna has got the same common element, which I'll show you shortly. So what I'm doing here is we need to cut off this edge of paper. So now it's nice and flush. And then this is going to be sticky taped to there. Okay, arrow to arrow. Doesn't quite line up, but that'll be fine. Fabric's very forgiving. So I'm just going to attach his head to his torso, and then we have to do it again. Now, as a little extra helping hand, Lesley, the creator, has created a YouTube series of videos to help us along. So if we get stuck and can't quite make heads or tails of anything that we come along on those instructions, we've got a YouTube channel that we can go to. That link is also below. Even in the instructions, she refers to the YouTube channel here of where to go to sort of watch different parts of the process. And one is getting the patterns ready. So here we go again, B to B. Oh, he is going to be a big unit. Oh, wow. What fun. Susanna and I were brainstorming, you know, what we could do together, because she found this gorgeous panel of fabric that was readily available in most quilt shops around Australia. It's part of a famous sort of series of fabrics. And we're like, oh, that'd be fun. What could we do? And, you know, we sort of then didn't chat for about a week, and we come up, well, in my head, I come up with bags and wall hangings, and I was like, oh, I don't need another wall hanging. I'm not going to frame it, etc., etc. So when I recalled seeing a Hendrick pop up on a Facebook slow stitch page, probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and I was like, oh, I wonder who he is and what he's about. So I went back to that page, found him, followed the links, found the pattern, and then I contacted Susanna and said, I know what we can do. It has to be a Hendrick. So that's how it all came to be. So the pair of us are going to have a while of a time creating our Hendrick. So that's his body. Look at the size of that. Like, that's pretty impressive. What a lad. So there's 12 inches plus another 9.5 inches on top of that. Like, whew. So we need to cut 2 of the body. So I'll just put that away on the side here. Now we've got another piece, C to C. So this is his back. So the same principle. We'll trim off, we'll attach. Let's do that. And then on each piece, it clearly says how many we need to cut of each piece. Now the theory is we cut out Hendrick, every bit of him, in calico or muslin, which creates his base, if you will. And then, gathering whatever fabrics you like, you slow stitch pieces onto him to create his unique identity, his fur, if you will. So what are we doing now? D to D. So once again, we can trim that. So everyone seems to be using fairly heavy duty fabrics, which is definitely a hot tip, I think, because you're going to be cutting out squares, rectangles, whatever you want, and laying him on the calico body, which has been pre-stuffed and, you know, is in his shape, like you're working on him in his full form. And then doing some decorative stitching to sort of pin it all down into place. Some slow stitch, if you will. So I guess that's one consideration you need to keep. And I'll show you a selection of fabrics that would be perfect for it. And my selection, and that I'm actually going to use, will be a little bit of a combination of that type of fabric. But look, I'll show you in a moment. You'll understand when you see it. Okay, so what have we got here? So more elements. E to E. So once again, so that's his foreleg, that's his gusset, so that's the top of his head, and this is his ears. So once again, we need to trim off the line. So far, pattern's really simple. So this video, I'm not sure how I'll release it to you all, if it'll be a weekly thing or not. I'd say it will be, and I'm planning on releasing it as we come up to Easter. So by the time we get to Easter, we should have ourselves a Hendrick each, which will be a lot of fun. So that's the plan. And throughout the process, Susanna will be releasing her Hendrick too. So it's going to be great to see the pair of us and our interpretation of our Hendricks. Okay, so that's ready to go. What's the next piece? Okay, so we've got a leg. All right, and once again, that leg needs to join in there. And there's his tail. Oh, gorgeous. I haven't yet worked out his tail. I noticed in the instructions she refers to using a piece of fur for the tail, and I haven't got any fur, so I will need to go hunting for something. And I plan to use a lot of fabrics I find at op shops, just to sort of keep the cost down, and you get a lot of fabric for your money. So I guess if I want to make another one in the future, I've got, you know, some bits and pieces that could be used. So that's the leg now joined. So there's our leg, and that's his little tail. So I'm going to need to find a fur to match, but we'll see. She suggested looking for things like an old jacket that might have a fur collar, or even an old teddy bear that looks a bit rough, and maybe you can pull him apart and cut the fur out of a toy to make your tail. Another thing I thought of, because I'm from the world of Christmas with my Christmas shops, is often stockings. Christmas stockings will have a fur cuff. You can pick those up, maybe reduced after Christmas, and then use that as your element of fur to make his little tail. But you might decide just to use fabric too. Okay, so that's my 4 pieces. I'm just going to put another sticky tape there. So that was pretty simple. So it's just about creating the bigger pieces in one what am I trying to say? In one piece, ready to cut out. So they're all joined. So we've got his body. Look at the size of this guy. Oh, just gorgeous. So I will cut them out off camera because you don't need to see that. I'm then going to place them on my calico. Now, just looking at these pieces, there's an arrow here. And I'm going to suggest, without reading anything in the instructions, which I don't think I noticed, but maybe I just skimmed something because I have the attention span of a gnat. And it might actually be referred to in the video. But those lines, when you're dressmaking, lines like that mean you follow it parallel to a selvage. So what I mean by that, let's say that this is your fabric and the selvage is here along this bottom edge, and the selvage is up here, and this is where the shop has cut it for you. So it might be, you know, 2 meters or a meter wide, but the shop has cut you a strip that's only like 30 centimeters. Okay, so that means that that arrow needs to lie parallel to the selvage. Now let's have a look at the body. Okay, so that means the body needs to lie across the fabric like so. So if that's the selvage, there's the arrow. That helps you get the grain of your fabric right. So if that was skew width, for example, let's say it was like that on the fabric, there's a potential that your Hendrick will be a little bit warped. He won't be sitting true. Does that make sense? It's like getting the fabric and it'd be a little bit skewy width, where by doing it all selvage on selvage, that's the strongest part of your fabric. So that'd be the only thing I would make sure you do. I haven't seen that comment in the pattern. It doesn't mean it's not on the YouTube video when you watch. And it could even be here, but like I said, attention to detail. Yeah, I can't see anything, but if you're a dressmaker, you'll certainly know that that's what that arrow means. So let's just pop the pattern away. So as I mentioned, I'm going to cut all these out now. I'm going to pin them to my calico, and I'm going to then have them ready to start sewing together. Now it did say in the calico, she refers to it as the shell. So it's his body, 1.5 meters of strong fabric, which is easy to sew through. Nothing special, although it won't be seen. Okay, so because we're cladding him, we're covering him with all these patches, it's not actually seen, but calico is a good strong fabric, it's economical, and you're going to need 1.5 meters of it. Now that'd be because that body is following the length of your selvage, so that's why you need that good piece. You probably have bits and pieces left over, but that's definitely what you need to start with. Now the next thing you're going to need is some embroidery threads and wool. That's to attach all your pretty pieces. So that's not a decision I need to make just yet until I sort of start nutting out the fabrics that I'm going to use. A sturdy needle and 1 kilo of wadding. Now in Australia I went to Spotlight and they actually sell wadding by the kilo, which surprised me because I've never taken much notice, and it's a pretty big bag. It'd be like if you were to hug it in your arms, it'd be like holding 2 good sized cushions, pillows. So it's a fair bit of wadding. She does suggest that like she's done when she made hers, her mum had thrown out a sofa, so she was pulling apart the cushions of an old sofa and using that as the wadding for her Hendricks, which is not a bad idea if you happen to have a couple sofa cushions kicking around. What else is she saying? Spray glue to attach the fabrics. I'm not going to use spray glue. If I need something, there's always these glue sticks that you can get from quilt stores that allow you to put a little bit of glue on fabric and it'll hold. At the end of the day, you could probably just do some tacking stitch, just to tack down with some big stitches in a random colour to hold your fabric in place until you are ready to come along and do some actual slow stitching. So that's pretty easy. A 12-inch needle to attach the hind legs. Okay, so if you've made, say, a teddy bear, you'll know that you need a needle that is about that long, a doll-making needle, so that's nearly 30 centimeters, to go through his hip, his leg, through his body, and out the other side. And that's going to attach the buttons that hold his legs into position. If you don't use buttons, you might just use some thread to go backwards and forwards just to sort of attach them. So it's entirely up to you, my guess. It may refer to something in the coming instructions, but there's definitely no mention of buttons here, but you could certainly put some buttons on his little hind legs, or it's just take the needle through with some strong cord just to attach those hips to his bottom. We've discussed the pattern and some things I've found there. We've joined A to A, B to B, so all the pages are now linked and I've just got to cut them out. Each pattern piece clearly marks how many of each you need to cut out, so that shouldn't be too hard. What else have we got before you start? Some wire. All right. So it says 2mm wire, which would be a nice piece of information I should have probably known before I went down to Bunnings, because I believe my wire is 1.57mm, but I think it'll be okay. Like, I just picked it up knowing that that was pretty hard for my fingers to actually bend, so it's going to have a bit of rigidity to it. Worst case scenario, you know, like what was it, 2mm? Yeah, 2mm. I'm not far off, so I think this will be fine. But if you were concerned, you would want 2mm diameter wire. So that's the width here at the wire when it's cut. Okay, now the wire is used in many places. It's used through the ears, and that helps the ears to stand up, and you can position them. They're posable, so you'll be able to bend them, straighten them, do whatever, one up, one down. It is through the legs, and that's going to help him sit, I believe. By having that wire in there, it's really going to help give him a little bit of structure, and it's in his arms and through his body. Is it in his arms? I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on that yet. We'll surely find out as we work through it. But it'll definitely be up through his body, connecting into his head. That'll help him his head from not, you know, flopping. So the wire is very important. You can make him without the wire, but he's going to just be floppy. I would say he might even start to look a little pudgy because the wire is not sort of keeping him taut. It's like having loose muscles. We sort of get a bit saggy, but if our muscles were taut, as in the wire, it would keep his shape really well. And if you have a look at her photos, you can see he's got quite a nice slender, tight look about him, and his ears are definitely upright. She's bent that ear there down, so the wire would be like in a loop in there. The other thing we need to do with the wire is we're going to bind it with some leftover calico. So we're going to wind calico round and round and round and round, and that's just going to make the wire disappear a little, give it a softer sort of feel, and that'll help protect it from shooting through your embroidered rabbit. So that's the theory with the wire. Now, all of this information I'm giving you, I've just been sort of reading through the pattern, watching the video, and sort of getting my head around where I think we're heading. So please don't quote me exactly on the construction side of things, because I might find that I might have got something a little bit wrong. But I'll be the first to tell you if, like, oh, that's not what we're meant to do, it's this. So bear with me if that's the case. But I think I've got a pretty good feel for it, and the instructions are really good. Now, the only other thing that I'm going to do is the gusset that goes across the head of the rabbit. Let me find another picture. I'm going to make that an actual coloured piece of fabric and not use a stitched piece, because I want it to be quite defined in its, I guess, what's the word? In its colour block. Now, you don't have to. This one, for example, he's patchy. Oh, no, yeah, he is. So the calico is underneath, but he has got a piece of that green coming over his head, which is whip stitched on, and then a second piece forming his little muzzle. He has like a Hessian little muzzle. She's put then a third piece of Hessian over the top of his snout. So definitely all sort of stitched. What I'm going to do is, where that green is, I'm going to actually not use the calico. I'm going to use a feature fabric just for something a little bit different. So that would be, if I grab my patterns, that would be the piece, back of his body, his ear, the head gusset. That I'm considering actually using something a bit special there so that it looks, you know, a little bit special. Sorry about Pepper and Bandit. They're at my window barking because it's nearly dinner time. The sun is setting, and that's when those pair are like, excuse me, stop what you're doing. It's supper. But they're going to have to just wait. Okay, so we've talked about the gusset, which I'm going to pick a fabric for. That's pretty much all we can really go through at this stage. Everything else I'm yet to experience. I've got to get it cut out, I've got to pin it, stitch it, get on my sewing machine and complete all of these tasks, and then I'll report back with my findings. But it looks really straightforward. See that image there? That's the wire going up into a leg, I think. Yeah, I think it is. It's going into a leg. And see how it's wrapped in the calico? So that's pretty straightforward. And then it's poked up into the fabric and you stuff around it. So it sort of goes in at the same time the wadding goes in. And that little ring is used, I believe, in the base of him. The other thing I'd like to do, which I don't know if it's definitely not referred to, is I want to make him a doorstop. So I might include a weight in there. So probably I'll make a little calico bag with some sand in it, for example, or some rice. Just something to poke into his the bottom of him, and that'll help him sit and potentially hold a door open. So that's the plan for my Hendrick. He's going to be a doorstop. So we do need to put some weight into him. I think that's pretty much it. And then once you get him built, you don't attach the legs or the arms. You just have the body and all of those elements separate, and then you start decorating. And if you can see by the photo, it's a case of gathering your fabrics, cutting out random shapes, whatever you want, and then slip stitching them in, and your stitches are decorative as well. So just super cool. This should be quite a fun project. And I'm guessing where we have curves and we're coming into nooks and crannies, it'll be just a case of gather it in, pleat it in and stitch it. So yeah, it should be super fun. There's some more photos. There's just lots and lots of photos, like it should be. Look, there's his legs done. So all the elements are pre-decorated, then you attach them. There's a nice close-up photo of random stitching. Yeah, this guy is super cool. The ears, there they are, just layers of fabric. She's used some hessian to get them looking gorgeous. Cut the ears from your chosen fabric. Cut enough to go around the wire. Yep. Yep. Okay. Really good. Really, really good. Okay. So I might have to dig out some hessian because I wouldn't mind him having hessian ears. So that's something, like you could use your calico, but it looks like you lay the two pieces together and then stitch around it. So his ears aren't full of wadding and they're not done on the sewing machine as you're pre-prepping. They're like these decorative elements that are built a little bit to the, you know, different to the main body parts. Place the wire in the two pieces. Yep, encasing it. Yeah, okay. We'll get to the ears when we get to it, but at the moment, don't need to cut the ears out because they potentially may be the decorative piece of fabric that I use on the top of his nose, maybe. Who knows? We'll get to them. And then they're going to be attached. And there's his little tail. Oh, gosh, you could use suede, hessian, fur. Could certainly have some playing. And then there's some instructions of different types of eyes. Now, I know on their Instagram page, which I'll have a link below as well, is lots and lots of different interpretations of Hendrick and different ways of doing their eyes, for example. So maybe have a bit of a look through that as well, to give you some different ideas. Here's the gusset in a different color. That's what I mean. I'm going to do that. I'm going to stitch in a piece right there, just so that it's, you know, part of the build, so to speak. And there's Hendrick and Gordon. Oh, so we've got to come up with a name as well. How special. And there's Lesley's details. But yeah, if you got any questions, like Lesley was so approachable, just shoot her a message via Instagram and just ask your question, because yeah, she was really easy to chat to. Okay, I just want to go through fabric selections that you could consider. And I found things that are similar to what I'm seeing on the Instagram page. Now, it does mention in there the coarser the fabric, the more textural you're going to have of your hair. So this is a swatch of fabrics that I picked up at an op shop that has come from a furniture place. So these would have been couches. So these would be perfect to make a Hendrick, and it'd be a case of cutting out the bits and stitching them all on. They're textured, they feel like a wool blanket, they feel like an old jacket. Perfect. And a lot of them on Instagram appear to have used similar sorts of fabrics. So in your selections, you might want to consider some old blankets, some old jackets, even some flannelette shirts that you may be discarding from your husband's cupboard, or you might have some random pieces of fabric you've salvaged from cleaning out a grandparent's cupboard. Just some suggestions of where you could go looking for fabrics. And like I said, the op shop there's so much stuff in there that if you're focused in on a certain style of fabric, I'd be pretty sure you could find something. Which brings me to jeans. You could do a jean one. You could then do that boro stitching on it with indigo dyed fabrics. A whole plethora of colours you could do there, and lots of embroidery. Mine's going to be an embroidery styled rabbit. It's not just about putting the fabric on for me. I'm actually going to be embroidering and slow stitching and adding layers and building up my surface of my Hendrick. But if you did want the ones that are similar to the photos, this is what I would suggest you be looking for. And I just grabbed out that check just to break it up. You might find you need to find a check fabric to just give yourself a bit of breathing space on your rabbit. It by all means would look super cool in these fabrics, but I sort of felt like I'd want maybe the underneath of his feet, or the inside of his ear could be one of these plus that, or the gusset across the top of his head could be the check, and then you went from there. Just a suggestion. These fabrics are not what I'm going to do. They're purely as a bit of give you a bit of food for thought of what style of Hendrick you actually want. Now, the next fabrics that I pulled out that could be of interest to you. Now, I won't show you them yet. I'm going to show you these. I went to my cupboard and I found some florals. Now, these are all florals from Spotlight. They've been around for a while and could be the base of your Hendrick. So let's picture the gusset across the top of the head. Let's say it was in one of these fabrics. That then would become your palette. That's why I'm going to do the gusset as my starting point of a particular fabric. So you could do a French rose theme, a watercolor floral theme, a more not as abstract floral theme. And then this is an old denim jacket that I picked up at the op shop and I've been chopping at for years. You see there's the sleeve. So there's all sorts of interesting colours and textures there. So that is another suggestion. Now, with that in mind, let's pretend for a minute that I was doing 4 Hendricks, and you never know, that might actually happen, but let's just get one done to start with. In amongst my fabrics, I pick up the odd placemat or napkin. It often gives you great linens. So I found this one here, and it sort of matches with all of it. Maybe not so much that one, but it would work. So in this particular Hendrick consideration, I would have some plainer fabrics. Now, when I mention embroidery, this would be a great place to do some embroidery on. So to be getting your water soluble, heat soluble pen and sketching a little design and then stitching it. So just another suggestion. And then pairing it back, I then went and found what I call neutrals. So I had 3 music fabrics, and I had this one here, which I think I also got from Spotlight, or at least a quilt shop. It's got script on it. So imagine a Hendrick that is one of these florals, and then there's patches of letters on him, and then patches of music on him, and then some plain patches in amongst it that you've embroidered. So just another food for thought. Now, the only comment I'll make is Lesley in the pattern says that the heavier the fabric, the easier it is to make him look scrappy, which I think is a very good comment. So things like this will be easy to stitch on. If they fray, it doesn't matter, and he'll look chunky. So this sorts of fabrics, dressmaking fabrics, is going to give us a completely different look. So something to consider with your Hendrick, that he won't have that, let me get those photos again. He won't have that weathered, thick, textural feel. Like they've got corduroy on his legs, which would be spectacular. So just something to have a think about. Do you want him to be quite rough in texture, or these fabrics are more of a pretty rabbit? So I'm going to be using these fabrics because it's something a little bit different. So we'll see how it goes on my Hendrick. Maybe it's a great idea, maybe it's not, but I think it'll work. Now, another pack I picked up just as a bit of inspiration is this one here. This was a tin of fabrics that I picked up at a quilt shop. It's just a designer. It was in a cute little tin. To be honest, I think I was swayed by the tin more than the fabrics, but there's quite a range of colours here. So maybe that's a good starting point for you. If you don't have a lot of fabric, head to a quilt shop and see if you can find a starting point. You might like these purples into the greys. You might like the reds. You might like the reds into the blues. You might want the sandy colours. You might want all of these colours. These are jelly roll, so they're 2.5 inch strips by 40 inches long. They are a good start, and they'll all be part of a designer series. So Hendrick will have a sort of a tone that matches about him. So something like that might kick you off. And then while you're at the shop, you might buy yourself some fabric that has music notes on it, or some script. So as you can see, these will work with that. And like there's probably 6 different Hendricks there in colour combinations. So another thing you could consider. And then if you swung by the op shop, you might be able to pick up a piece of linen napkin that matches into the one that caught your eye. You might be able to pick up a red or that blue or a sandy colour. So something to have a think about. So it's all about building a story of colour for your Hendrick. Okay, so the next idea I had, which is leading me to what I'm actually going to do, is these are a couple pieces of Sanderson upholstery fabric that I've had in my little collection for a while, which I just love and would make a gorgeous starting point for a Hendrick. So that one could be all pastels. That one could be all of the greens. And seriously, you could mix them together. The other idea, which is where I'm heading with my Hendrick, my point of difference, is this is a very old, uncompleted doily. This will bring back memories. So we would buy a doily that's pre-printed and then embroider everything following the lines, and then on that edge you would crochet a crocheted edge for your doily. I'm going to use this concept, not this. That's like Hendrick number 12 if I was to make them all. I'm going to cut pieces out, use that as a patch on my Hendrick, then come back and embroider it, these lines. So you see where I'm heading with this? So if you had some unfinished doilies, they are around on eBay, Etsy. if you did see one you loved, like I've got one in the cupboard that is all roses, and I was like so tempted to pull that out too, but I'm like, he would make a great Hendricks, especially with some of those fabrics we just looked at. So that would be the combination for Hendricks. Now that could be just that, could be just that, could be all three together. And once again, go and find some base colours, like even that linen. Look at that, there's the pink. Beautiful, beautiful. So there's a Hendricks there. So just another idea. These are just suggestions to sort of give you a little bit of food for thought. And the good thing about these upholstery fabrics, and even this linen printed Duchess set, is they got good structure to them. So they would be really good to sort of slip stitch on as patches. Okay, now we're getting to the piece that I'm going to use for my Hendricks. Drum roll. Look at this. This is a pre-printed panel from French General, which is a design name that has heaps of fabrics in their range. Every year they seem to bring out a slightly different version of all of them. And this is a pre-printed panel. These are available at all good quilt shops. There was one the previous year as well, so it doesn't really matter what one you get. And there are heaps of other designers out there that do these pre-printed pieces. Now this one in particular has 4 images, I believe. The first one, bonjour. The next one is merci. Look at that. So ready to embroider. The third one is all sorts of different stitches to create a sampler. Now, ideally, these are probably made into cushions. There's a cutting line, you'd stitch them in, you'd probably get some fabric from the French General range, and there's quite a few packs available, and you could make something out of them. As a bonus, there is a piece down the centre that could be used and embroidered. So that's also in the panel, so you get quite a bit for your money, but the bit that interests me is this. This is the piece that I'm going to use for my Hendricks. It's going to give me all sorts of interesting floral shapes that I plan to cut out, fussy cut out for those paper crafters amongst us. Embroider that onto Hendricks with some overcast stitch, I think. I don't think it'll be as fancy as blanket stitch. I think I'll rough stitch it on. And then I can come back and embellish all of these with lace, embroidery, beads. Oh, here we go. Like, it's unlimited what we could do. So this piece here is going to be used as one of my elements for my Hendricks. Okay, so now the cat's out of the bag. Now Susanna has the same panel. So I'm not sure what she's going to do or what she's going to use, but my feeling is she'll probably go to this because it gives us the most scope. And unless there's something super special around these, I probably want to keep these in their entirety, unless that maybe fit on the back of him, or being a door stopper, maybe that might fit on his tummy, but do I want to ruin that panel? I don't know. They're decisions I'll make once I get my Hendricks actually constructed, but at least you know where I'm heading with this. So you can see why I mentioned that if you can't get hold of this, have a look. You might get something like this. It'll be of the same principle. If you can't get this, all you need is some linen and then just sketch some form of floral emblem on there. And there's so many transfer books out there where you can get images and patterns, and Instagram's just full of inspiration where you can have a go at trying to draw something yourself. And even colouring in books, adult colouring in books, even books that are nature books, like we've all got them when we're doing our scrapbooking. I'm just grabbing a random book like these books. So you open it up and maybe have a go at drawing one of these flowers onto some linen, and then you can embroider it and embellish it. So that's my idea for the embellishing side of Hendrick. So you'll definitely, if you're going to follow along with my style, you'll need to find some elements. If not this piece, but definitely some of this. I might even work some of that into my Hendrick, because I think it'll all work, because I love that colour as well. And that linen will definitely be involved when you see my fabric pack. The next thing I've got to add to my stash for doing the project is this is a piece of fabric that is from a pillow slip. And on here I've got some velvet ribbon with some pearl beads. Sorry about that noise, that's Bandit being very naughty. So I've got this velvet ribbon. I'd love to include that on Hendrick. I've got some pearl beads and some little eyelets. They'd be fun to try and work into him somewhere. And then this gorgeous floral fabric. So that's definitely on my pile. And then just to bring in the French General, this is the fabric I'm going to use as my patches. Now, remember, it's not fabric that is heavy duty like that upholstery fabric, so it could wriggle a bit. It could be a bit tricky to stitch, but I'm pretty confident I can pull it off. So this is the first time I've opened the pack. I hope I like it. I hate to think that I don't. No, I'll be right. There you go. This is the start of my Hendrick. So you can see the fabrics to choose from. Oh, look at that. So there's all sorts there. So that will certainly set the mood for my Hendrick. So I don't want to make too much mess. And I'm already making a mess. So this is a new French General pack. I will find out the name. I can't see it anywhere. It certainly doesn't say it. But look, there's so many in the series. I had a pack a little while ago, and my red book that I created was the French General series as well. I'll just show you that. Now, it may be still out there, but I don't know, it was a few years ago. And if I open this up, see that fabric there? That's also French General. So that is certainly out there, but I don't know, it might be getting a bit rare. And as you can see, it's got a similar style to this panel. So it's very, very classic French General. I think there was another, yeah, this one here, that one there. I'd love some more of that, but it has sold out everywhere. There's other versions of it with a red and a darker green and a more of a sandy colour, but this particular one I haven't yet spotted anywhere in my travels, which makes me think it's a few years old. If you want to see more about this book, it's a REDWORK book, and I created a bit of a flip through of that. So I'll link that below if you wanted to have a little look at the red book I made. So it's a sort of very much in my style of fabrics, this Hendrick. So, okay, so we have got our coordinating pack of fabric. We've got some random linen just to break it up a little bit so it's not too, you know, I sort of want to break it up a little bit, make him scrappy. We've got some feature pieces that can be used and stitched on, and I'm even going to throw in that doily as just, I think I'll have in my stash ready to grab if, you know, so inclined. The other piece that I'm going to add to my Hendrick, which is probably not too unique, but it is not a lot of them when you go through the Instagram page. There's over 200 Hendricks there, and there's not a lot that use doilies. So in amongst my Hendrick and all of his embroidery is going to be snippets from these vintage doilies. I've got collars. This is just from a little top that I found in the op shop that was probably made a year ago in fashion. So there you go, Valley Girl medium was a couple dollars, but it's like the gift that keeps giving. There's all sorts of elements there. So Mr. Hendrick is going to be a scrappy, lacy, doily embossed, embroidered, beaded character. So he should be heaps and heaps of fun. Okay, I've waffled now for like 50 minutes. I think you've got a bit of a feel now for where I'm heading with Hendrick. I'm off to cut out my pieces, pin them to my calico, cut them out, then follow the instructions to create the body, the legs and the arms. I don't need to do the ears at this stage unless I want to really get in amongst these fabrics, because that's the ears. Then it's wrap some calico around wire, insert the wire into those elements and stuff him tight around the wire, and that will give me, then you stitch him up. So you've got 2 legs, 2 arms and your body. And then it's a case of starting to gather fabrics to patch together. Okay, all right, I'm going to leave it at that. If you want to join me, head over to Lesley's store, grab yourself the Hendrick pattern, start pulling together your ideas. Good luck, because there's so many ways you could make a Hendrick, so be interesting to see what you all do. Susanna is following along as well, and our common element is this panel, so it'll be interesting to see where she takes her Hendrick, and we'll both be posting our video on the same day, and I think it'll be weekly leading up to Easter. So by Easter we'll have a doorstop Hendrick sitting at our front door. What fun. I hope you join me. I hope you go and grab the pattern. I think you'll be wrapped with it. Oh, look, I haven't even made the thing yet. I'm already thinking I'm going to be wrapped with it. But anyway, I think I will. So don't forget your wire. You may need a glue stick. You may need a fabric pen. You'll definitely need some scissors, pins and a needle. And I don't know where we're going to get a big needle. We need a needle that's 12 inches wide. Goodness sakes. I think I've got one that's about 9 inches. That might get me through, but probably won't. So that'll be a challenge to find something that can go through him and come out the other side. Anyway, that's a challenge for another day. All right, I'm just rambling now, so I'm going to leave you in peace. The next video will be an update of how I'm going with the, building of the actual body components. Okay, everyone, talk to you all soon. Bye for now.